Hi, my name is Steve Kafka. I'm the fellow that's undertaken the Von Dutch Bus Restoration Project. We're now in our 6th year, and we're about a month away of being finished with the project. Little background, I was on a road tour with the Legends of Pinstriping. I was in Wichita, Kansas at a Darryl Starbird car show that was featuring bubble top cars. And the Barrett-Jackson auction was going on. We're in Phoenix, Arizona, where the Barrett-Jackson is held over in Scottsdale. I live about 4 miles from that, so I'm very cognizant of the fact of pricing. About 6 months prior to finding the bus, they had an auction at the Peterson Museum for Von Dutch's I'm going to say leftovers, but what he left behind, and the prices that things sold for were astronomical. And we heard the bus go through the auction, and it sold for $46,000. The people that had purchased the bus from Santa Paula, the Bruckers, had it ripped out of the ground with a D10 Caterpillar, because it was up to its frame rails in mud. It had sat out in the field for 17 years. The Bruckers in Santa Paula is where Dutch passed away. He was not in the bus. They had a small travel trailer that he died in. This bus sold for $46,000, and they sold the Bill Cosby 427 Cobra for $5.5 million, which set a record. This set a record for all-time low for anything Von Dutch related. They sold his paint box for $315,000, and his spray guns, which were a mess, sold for $12,000 and $10,000. I had an opportunity when I got back. I got a phone call. It was on my voicemail. They'd like me to come and look at something that they purchased, and it was the gentleman, Paul Goki, that had purchased the bus. He didn't tell me what he had purchased. He said, "I bought something very significant to your art form, and would like to have you come out and look and tell us what's real inside and what's not." And I said, "Well, I knew Von Dutch. I was the auctioneer for the Rat Fink reunion for 11 years with Big Daddy Ed Roth. I knew Dutch. I didn't know him as well as a lot of people did." And I said, "What is it that you bought?" And they said, "Well, we own Von Dutch's bus." And I asked him, "Do you know what you have?" And they said, "We think so. What do you think?" And I told them, as far as I'm concerned, with regards to custom motorcycles and hot rod, you have the Holy Grail and Tutankhamun's tomb all rolled into one. And you could hear him smile on the phone, and he said, "That's what we thought." I said, "What are your plans?" He said, "We're going to sell it." I said, "What are you going to ask for it?" He said, "We're going to ask $200,000. And being my nature, I said, "That sounds very fair." He said, "We'd like to have you come up, and we'll pay you for your time and all that, and we'd like to have you come up and go around the bus." And I did, and I used a movie camera that I'd never used before, and I ended up erasing the whole thing when I initially had seen the bus. The first thing that I did notice was it said Douglas Aircraft on the, I call it the curb side of the bus. It's where the passenger door is. And that dispelled a myth that we later proved that this bus was never, I'm sitting in Von Dutch's bus right now, and it proved that it was never a Long Beach City bus, ever. Because Long Beach never would have bought a used bus for municipal service. But it was used by the Douglas Aircraft Company, that later became McDonnell Douglas Aircraft, to transport the workers from the 2-mile facility from one end to the other. And that's where it spent its life. Then we checked it on the Ohio Department of Transportation records, and it was the first bus ever built with an automatic transmission. And it was shipped to Escondido, California, to Douglas Aircraft. So that's the end of that myth. When I saw the inside of it, they had put a lot of things in to look Dutch-esque. Machinist toolbox, micrometers, vernier calipers, and things that Dutch never used. And this is from his friend and working companion, and they were good friends, Dick Odette. Dick is now 87 years old. He was a master wood craftsman. He did all of the dashboards for Duesenberg and things like that, for Barrett Jackson. And he has guided me through this. He told me that I've made the body too perfect. It was never like that, and I didn't want to make it a mess. I wanted to make it a respectful restoration of a man that everybody had a lot of respect for, especially people in my profession. I'm sitting next to a 1947 Sheldon lathe that he had purchased from Big Daddy Roth, and it was on a different table when it was in the bust, and that table is nowhere to be found. So we have it on the wet table that he had it on when he passed away, and he striped it, and it's all restored now, sitting in the position that it was in when it was in the bust. It's just not as high. We were unable to put the torch set behind it because there's no room. Everything else we're doing, there were so many different configurations of this bus, and we have the blessing of Dick Odette and many others that were in the bus. I've left 6 bullet holes in it that Dutch shot in this bus himself. We have, most of it is done. We're going to be done with this in about 30 days, I'm hoping. There are people working on the bus as I'm doing this interview. You'll see the bus rock when it goes in and out, but it's completely wired now. Dick told me that many times Dutch would be underneath this bus and he'd hear a whole bunch of expletives and a big piece of the wiring harness would come flying out. He said, and he'd go, "We don't need this so-and-so in here," you know, and he'd throw it out and rewire it himself. But it's all been taken care of now, and everything works. It has been 6 years. I originally thought this would be a quickie 6-month, paint it, put some stuff in it, and sell it. But I want to leave the impression that Dutch was just here, and he was just working on something, maybe on the lathe or on the workbench, and he just stepped out for a moment to have a cigarette or a beer. And of all of the artists that have worked in this bus, Alton Gillespie, Lyle Fisk, John Hannican has done work on it. Jeff Stiles, Mark Brody, some fellows from Chicago, a fellow from The Kid from Japan has been here, and many others. They'll all be on the door. Incidentally, the restroom door was actually taken by the fellow that hauled the bus down from Santa Paula to San Diego, and offered to sell me this and offered to sell it back to me for $15,000. Well, Dick Odette said, "I'm a wood guy, we can reproduce the door and the latches and all this stuff." And we did a beautiful rendition of it, and then it came up for sale and we were able to procure it. So the original door is in the bus. We're going to use the one that we made as the marquee for outside. We're doing this video. Lyle Fisk's brother, Norman Fisk, is very well experienced and well versed in developing historic DVDs, and this is going to be one of them. We have so many original Von Dutch pieces. His 2 daughters, Lisa and Lorna, are very much behind the whole project, as is his ex-wife, Sheila. And they'll be in this video, as will many others that were connected with Dutch or knew him. I knew him only from the Rat Fink reunion. When I came here from the East Coast, he had been gone from Arizona for 2 years, back to Los Angeles area, where he, a lot of people confuse him with the ball cap manufacturer and the Southern California clothing designer, and you've heard him called a lot of things, but to most of us, he was the originator of modern pinstriping, which there's quite a few of us that have made a decent living doing this. I call it the greatest art form that I've ever been involved in. But this is the lathe. This is a 47 Sheldon 10-inch swing lathe. He could put a gun barrel, and he used to do a lot of guns and knives, and we have lots of examples of this that are going to be in the bus when it's finished. And the video will be shown so that we don't have to actually let people walk inside. This is going to hopefully go to some sort of museum or go on a road tour. We're talking with Napa and Sherwin-Williams, and many people are interested. So we'll see where it goes. It's still up in the air at this point. But we've tried to keep it as authentic as we possibly can. Cleaned it up. I don't know if anybody ever saw the pictures, but they'll be in the video of what this bus looked like. But there was at least 10 pounds of rat excrement, and we found a petrified rat inside. And, we fixed 30 some odd bullet holes in the side of this, and it's been a real work of love and dedication. People swear that Dutch's presence is still in this bus. They can feel him when they come in, which I find really unique. And hopefully we'll find a good home for this. It's been a heck of a project, a 6-month project that turned into 6 years now. Steve McQueen was in this bus on a pretty regular basis. There were stickers above the door where all the original stickers are of his original movie set. It was called Solar Studios, and we've had to reproduce one of those for the outside door. We've reproduced the busing station. Carl Koch's book was just incredibly instrumental in reproducing everything because he had pictures from 1971. And as Dick said, there were so many different configurations inside here. There was no set plan. We put everything with using the book as reference. We put everything back and built it the same as it looked in those days, so that people would have that feeling that when he came into this bus, when they looked inside, it would look like the master of the crafts vehicle. He slept here. He stayed here. He cooked here. Dick tells stories about how he'd come in here and the thing would be filled with smoke because he fell asleep in his bed while he was cooking stuff. There's a little hot plate back here that he used. His air compressor was right under this bench. He did welding in here and grinding. My plan is not to make it the messy, give it the messy reputation. We're not going to do that. It's going to look like he would have liked it. We've rewired everything. It's all 12 volt at this point. It also has 110, and it was wired with 220. It's not going to have 220 anymore. All the machines are functional. None of them are going to be wired. God forbid some little kid flips a switch on and hurts himself, because these machines can hurt you. This is the lathe. I bought it from Wayne Gerlich. He's a custom motorcycle builder over in Mesa. Really super guy. He also owns Kenny Bernstein's first dragster that Kenny Youngblood painted. And he told me that Chip Foose, Jesse James, and Jay Leno all offered him $50,000 for this lathe. And he'd already made a deal with me. I paid half of that for it. This is a full disclosure thing. I'm going to tell everything that I've reproduced that goes in the bus. I'm not going to try and claim anything that he did that he didn't do. We've got a lot of his tools. We've got a lot of things. I've got some clothing that the daughters gave me. It's going to look like he just walked outside to have a smoke when we're done with it. I hope if you're watching this, you get a chance to see it in real life someday. That's all I got for now. Was that 15 minutes?
Something close.
Was it?